We open with Rob. As he opens his eyes, as we hear, "Hey! Hey! Hey! I'm talking to you!" As we see a guard standing there in the shadows, as we see he's being held in a cell. The guard says, "The big man is very disappointed in you, Mr. Johnson. You've done all this shit for too many years, and frankly, he's tired of it. Time for you to learn the consequences of your actions, Rockstar." They open the cell doors, as the guard says. "Now don't try anything funny." Rob says, "Well, I guess you can't know for sure, can you?" The guard then takes him out of the cell, as we see them walking down this hallway, as they sit him down and the guard walks away. As we then see, Matthew is across the room, as Rob says, "Matthew? What the fuck? What the hell are you doing here?" Matthew says, "Hey man, how you been?" Rob says, "Well, I can see we're both in the same place in different situations." Matthew says, "Yeah, it's been a while, my friend. It's been a while. After the battle went down, we were attacked. I was hoping I'd find you, and I'm glad I have, man, because I don't want to be with these people any longer than I have to." Rob says, "Oh, I get it. Matthew says, "Now let me ask you something. How'd you get yourself caught?" Rob says, "Was doing something for my people. Let's just say I got the short end of the stick." Matthew kind of laughs at this and says, "Don't we all?" As we then hear, "Hey! Hey!" As we see Haley waking up, as she is sitting in a cell, as she hears somebody walking by, as the guard says, "Move!" As she then sees, they throw Rob inside with her. As we see, Rob is covered in blood, as Haley says, "Oh my god, you alright?" Rob says, I'm fine. Haley says, "You think this is funny?" Jacinthe says, "You see me laughing, bitch? Tais-toi, come on. Tais-toi. We are gonna need you both for a very good reason. It's going to be very important to our commander. Also happy to finally meet you, Mrs. West. They come even smarter than they are dirty. Just the perfect amount of beauty from such a fierce woman. You are naughty, ma belle, I can tell." Haley says, "Go fuck yourself, Frenchman." Jacinthe says, "Well, pardon my English. It is not the best, I'm afraid. But I am going to make this un petit plus simple. You, ma chérie, are, how we say, our way in." As Rob then sits there and says, "I'm sorry." Flashback to before the outbreak. We see an arena of people. As we see Rob up there performing. As we then see Rob playing a guitar. As we see him performing a show. As we see him doing these big guitar solos. But as we then see a man with a knife going up the stage. As we see Rob takes his guitar and he kills this man in front of the whole arena of his fans. As Rob stands there covered in blood, as we see his fans look horrified and scared of him. As he stands there and whispers, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." As we see, the guitar is covered in blood. Rob says to Haley, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Haley says, "For what? We'll be out of here in no time, Johnson. Just follow my lead." And as we zoom out, we see they are captured in an underground bunker. As we see on the latch, it says, Ziltrumite, Station 19. Flashback to before the outbreak. We see police cars all outside the arena as we see Rob in handcuffs being taken away by several officers as he says, "Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." The officer says, "Yeah, we'll tell that to the judge, Mr. Johnson." They put him in the back of the car. As we see him handcuffed in the back of the car, as we hear, one of his songs is playing on the radio. As Rob says, "Can you please turn that shit off?" The cop says, "Be quiet." Rob says, "No, please, man, please. That's me on there. My voice really shouldn't be goddamn heard right now. After the shit I just did. Mark was right. I can't do this alone." The cop says, "Listen, this isn't my place, nor my position. But can I give you a piece of advice, Mr. Johnson?" Rob says, "Yeah." The cop says, "Listen, Mr. Johnson, it did sound like self-defense. It truly did. The man you said was coming at you, and he swung at you. And you swung back at him, and you killed him. Self-defense from the first degree." Rob says, "It was my fault. I didn't mean to hurt him. I didn't know what else to do. Whoever's around me, whoever's in my life, they die. They always die. Maybe me being behind those bars is the best goddamn thing for this world." As we see Rob behind bars, Rob's busted up head, and as we see Haley, she says, "So you pled guilty?" Rob says, "Yeah. Hell, it didn't matter if I did or I didn't. It was always gonna go like this. When your life is out in the open that much, that famous, that well-known, it takes one small slip-up to ruin your life." Haley says, "Well, Mr. Johnson, there's no media anymore. There's no more people controlling you, telling you a certain way to do things, because there's no laws anymore." Rob says, "That isn't necessarily true." Haley says, "How's that?" Rob says, "Ziltrumite. If your people are still in one piece, rules is all they know." One hour later, in the Ziltrumite city, we see the sun coming up as we see Enzo standing at the window looking out at the city, as we see two Ziltrumite soldiers knocking on the door. As he says, "This fucking early, get the fuck in here." They walk in as one of them then says, "Sorry, sir, we thought you should know. The funeral for those lost soldiers we lost the other day is at 1. Enzo says, "All right. We'll make sure those fucking people see who dares fuck with the family. They may pay the price. Now there's a number of shit for both of you to get done today. Hey, where the fuck is my assistant?" We then see a woman walks in heels, as she then says, "Oh, there she is." As we then see, it's Julia. She walks in and looks at the soldiers and says, "Hey, did you gentlemen even knock? I said meet me downstairs. You both know the rules. Come on, especially you, Mark. Your wife won't even talk to you for crying out loud. You looking for attention? Get the fuck out of here." The soldier then says, "I'm sorry, Mrs. Quinn. I'm sorry." Enzo says, "Julia, you can escort these men the fuck out of here. And when you're fucking done that, tell them to go to Arthur's outpost for fucking cleanup. We have to have defenses there at all times, especially in times like this one." Julia turns around and says, "You heard the Don? Go." As the men walk out, as we see, Julia is all in with Enzo. As we wonder, how did things get this way? Later on, we see Dave standing in the Ziltrumite cemetery. As we see, he's standing in front of Tegan's tombstone. As we see, it says, Tegan Kitman. As we see, Dave looks at it with nothing but guilt and sadness. As he hears, I figured I'd find you here. Dave turns around to see Miles, as Miles then says, a word, Mr. Miller? Dave says, sure. Hell, I haven't seen you in a while, buddy. You look good. Miles says, yeah, I wish I could say the same for you. Dave says, yeah, well, I've had better days. I was actually thinking about reaching out recently. Never got the chance to. There's something I wanted to talk to you about, actually, but I didn't want to intrude on your life or anything like that. Miles says, hey, you're never intruding on anything, brother. I wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for you. Now, I had something to talk to you about, too. Something I'm afraid we're both going to get involved in, whether we want to be or not. Dave says, the fuck is going on? Miles says, you know how the people on the news have been saying that there's one of the outposts that was hit? Arthur's. Dave says, yeah, fucking dumbass couldn't keep his shit on lock. I've been seeing it goddamn everywhere. Miles looks at him and says, well, it wasn't just ordinary people that attacked that outpost. I saw it for myself the other night, while it was going down. I was on patrol, saw the whole goddamn thing, and you wouldn't believe what I fucking saw. Dave looks surprised and says, what did you see? Miles says, Haley's alive. She, Tom, and that Rockstar and the others that got away, it seems like a lot of them, maybe all of them, have started a rebellion against Ziltrumite, and our people are in it. And they're all there. And they're alive, and they're fighting to get us out. Dave looks shocked and says, how do you know? Did you see her? Miles says, clear as day. Like I said, I was doing patrol, and I saw her, and it was her. From what I saw, she looked angry. And she and so many of the others are trying to take this place down from the outside, and they're doing it bit by bit. Dave looks happy and says, so, we didn't lose them? Miles says, no, we didn't. All these years I thought we did. They're still alive, boss. Dave says, you don't need to call me that anymore. Those guys out there, they're making this all happen. Not me. Miles says, what happened wasn't your fault. None of this was. Dave says, I made the choice. I made it for all of us. Just like I made the choice to kill Bishop in front of everyone, not knowing what the fuck it would do to everybody else. And even though I don't feel a piece of regret, a lot of goddamn people keep telling me I should. For what I did to him, what I done to everything else, everybody else, since then. It's all been bringing me bad luck. And now Tegan. She died. She died because of me. All those people that escaped that prison. Your eye is gone. And my fucking daughter. My fucking daughter is gone, Miles. And it's been fucking years. And I don't know where the fuck she is. I don't even know if he's kept her alive. He might just be telling me he has her so that I don't do a goddamn thing. He might have killed her years ago, and I have no fucking way of knowing. But either way, she's gone. Miles says, we'll find a way. Dave says, I haven't been able to find a way out of this world gone mad for over 10 goddamn years. Everyone that I let close to me dies. Or worse. You all are slaves to this place because of me. I did this to all of you. Miles says the unexpected thing. And Miles says, sure, you did. And now we're asking you to get us out. Listen, with all due respect, boss, you said it yourself. You're not calling the shots anymore. That's fine. But you want to correct your mistake? You claim that this is all your fault? I ain't gonna be the one to talk you out of it. That's your business. But I know you want to see your daughter more than anything in the world. And I know that you want to be a free man more than anything in the world. And I know that we all feel trapped in this fucking fucked up society. We're not even our goddamn selves anymore, Dave. Nobody is. Everybody's a shell of their former selves because they can't be themselves in a fucking organization like this. I think we all want to be free people on our own rules, on our own terms again, and there is a fight coming, whether we want it or not. He starts walking away and says, we're going to be involved in this real soon. And I sure hope the man that saved my life is with me on this. Dave, can you please help us get the fuck out of here? Dave looks nervous, but then he says, I think I can. I think so. But if we're doing this, you know what this means, right? Miles says, a 50-50 survival rate for either of us. I know. Dave says, okay, I'm in. Now I need your help talking to some people. I have a plan to run by you, but I can only discuss it in private. So for now, let's just keep things on the down low, alright? Miles says, you got it, boss. Dave says, Miles. You don't have to call, Miles says, sorry. But you're gonna have to deal with it. That's all I can say. Dave then smiles as he looks to have his confidence back, as he now knows Haley's alive. South of the Ziltrumite city, we see cameras being set up as we see a bunch of people doing a woman's hair. As we see, the woman is Sydney. Sydney says, could you guys raise the cue cards a little bit? I'm like blinded by the light over here. The person then says, you got it. All right, ready, Mark? 3, 2, 1, action. I'm Sydney, reporting live from Ziltrumite City. I'm your host, Sydney Roy, and we are continuing to have updates from Conductor Arthur's outpost after a horrible terrorist attack on him and his officers the other day. Sources are saying that there's no evidence of any survivors, and 32 are now confirmed dead. The funeral for the lost soldiers of this beautiful city is set to occur at 1 p.m. today at City Hall. Now with us is the Premier of Ontario, Mrs. Anna Reid. Thank you for joining us, Mrs. Reid. Anna says, thank you for having me, Sydney. Sydney says, now I wanted to ask you where you were when this was all going down, because we hear it was rather unexpected. Can you confirm? Anna says, well, yes, it was a very normal afternoon. Everything was going according to plan, and we were bringing in more and more new people into the Dawn's process. Out of nowhere, we were hit. It was so quick. It was so quick, Sydney, that you could literally hear gunfire even from where I was. And I don't know every detail, but apparently Officer Taylor and Conductor Arthur tried to save as many people as they possibly could. And of course, we all know how selfless Arthur can be, but it wasn't enough. Luckily, unfortunately, his courage wasn't even enough to save everybody. Luckily, he and Officer Taylor are still with us today. This is a message, and whatever it is, we can't let this happen to our city ever again. Sydney says, 100%, 100%. Thank you so much for your time, Mrs. Reid. Anna says, thank you, Sydney. Happy to. Sydney says, well, that was our premiere on the horrible attack on our home and this wonderful, unstoppable city of Ziltrumite. I'm Sydney Roy, and we'll be back after this commercial. We see the camera turn off as her smile leaves her. As she says, 10 minutes? The guy says, probably more like 6, yeah. Sydney says, okay. We see her step out as we see her pull out a cigarette. As she lights it, as we see, Sydney smokes now. As we then hear a man say, that was quite a speech there, Sydney. As we see, Bruce walks up to her, as he then says, You have another one of those? Sydney says, here. He takes one, as he says, it's a horrible attack out there, huh? Sydney says, yeah. I think you and I both know whoever it was. Arthur must have wronged him in one way or another. Bruce says, yeah, he had it coming. You okay? Sydney says, yeah, I'll be alright. It's just lying to people. Lying to thousands of people about what probably really happened. You know they made this shit up. I mean, the fact I have to lie to these people every day just so I don't end up homeless or worse. I mean, what the hell happened, Bruce? Bruce says, you know, in days like these, I always think about the choice we made. Tegan, the escape, the whole thing all those years ago. And if I'm being honest, the one thing that keeps bothering me, not all of us are here. And not all of us made that choice. You remember that. Sydney laughs and says, yeah, I know. I know Lincoln wouldn't have gone with this. Bruce says, yeah, probably not. Well, hey, I'm free tonight. If maybe you and Rebecca want to come have something to eat or something, or maybe go watch a movie or something. Hell, bring Colin too if he's free. Sydney says, no, Rebecca left last night with Colin, actually. Bruce says, oh, really? Where to? Sydney says, I don't know. Her and Colin had orders from Enzo. They may not be back till tomorrow, maybe later. Once I'm done my shift here, I'll swing by. Bruce says, sure. And hey, keep your chin up, alright? You may be spreading lies, but at least you're not the one that's going to be taking the fall when this eventually gets exposed. Sydney says, how do you know if it'll be exposed? I mean, this place has been thriving for over a decade. Bruce says, lies are always exposed, Sydney. Tom actually taught me that. Oh, I miss that crazy bastard. Sydney says, yeah, me too. As we then see them split off. Back with Dave. We see him walking the streets of Ziltrumite. As he enters a coffee shop, as we see him ordering, as we hear, you want to pay for me? Dave turns around in shock to see Enzo and some of his guys with him sitting in the corner of the coffee shop. He snaps his fingers at Dave as Dave walks up to him, and Enzo says, well, don't just fucking stand there. Come on, sit your ass down. Dave sits down and says, Don? Enzo says, I want you to work security for me tonight as one of my patrols from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. Dave says, but I'm working today. I can't just change my hours at such short notice. Enzo says, oh, from a friend to a friend, I already put in a word for you. You're off duty for the afternoon. Enjoy it. Tonight you'll work those hours. I'm making sure you get overtime, but I'm not even fucking telling you to work those hours. Pretty fucking great if you ask me. But that's what friends do for each other, huh? Dave looks pissed and says, thank you, Commander. I appreciate the gesture. Enzo says, a little birdie told me that you and your friend Miles had a very interesting conversation earlier. Dave looks nervous as Enzo stares him down. As he says, I mean, I really don't give a fuck, but I heard you two were reminiscing after all this time. So great to see you two being friends again. I mean, considering the injury you caused him. But as they say, bygones be fucking bygones. Dave says, yeah, I guess it is. Enzo says, oh, Dave, you're fucking depressing me. At least pretend to be enjoying this. I haven't seen you say anything positive in over a goddamn year. Also, you gotta shave that fucking beard of yours. You look like a homeless guy that starts burning shit and lighting things on fire on the side of the fucking road. He points at the TV and he says, hey, look, it's your best friend, Sydney. Dave looks up at the TV to see Sydney on the news. As he looks at the TV, he can see the look of doubt on her face. As he looks completely defeated, Enzo says, anyway, get your day going, Mr. Miller. Sorry for taking up your time. As Dave looks like he wants to say more, but he walks out looking angry. Outside the city of Ziltrumite, we see Haley and Rob sitting there as he smirks, as she then says, what's so funny? Rob says, oh, nothing. It's just, no matter what I do, For the good or for the bad. I always seem to end up behind bars. Haley says, yeah, well, we're getting out of these ones. Didn't you say you were in jail with my friend Dave? Rob says, yeah, not only was I in there, we saved each other. Right at the start of this whole nightmare. We see Rob sitting in the cafeteria. As he's talking with some of the other mates in there, we see one of the guys saying, and then I just let her have it. I killed her so fast and I got my money from that stupid bitch and I got busted, yo! Everyone laughs and we see Rob is clearly fake laughing and he's just doing it to blend in. Then the news comes on in the background as we hear there was a murder downtown. A 34-year-old man brutally killed a woman and her 7-year-old daughter in their house, not even an hour ago. The woman's name was Linda Miller, and the little girl was Kim Miller. They say the man that murdered these two individuals is named Chris Williams. Officers claim that they are still on the search for him as we speak. The guys at the table are just talking over it. But then he sees Dave sitting at a table all alone, crying, as he starts punching some of the prison guards, as he yells to Lincoln, I'm gonna kill you! I'm gonna fucking kill you! As they take Dave away, as we can see, this is the day Dave lost his family. Rob says, I saw him. Broken. I didn't know what to say. Nobody did. Little did I know that'd be the same guy that I would escape with. I remember us hearing those rumors about the dead reanimating and coming back to life. At least that's what we were thinking it was. You remember that time? Haley says, yeah, I do. Rob says, I remember I talked to your husband before everything happened. That same night. Haley looks kind of emotional and says, can I ask, what did you say to him? Flashback to before the outbreak. We see him sitting in a cell as we hear two guards passing by as he says, hey Doug, Lincoln, I'm sorry for stopping you both, but I've been hearing a lot of stories on the news about the dead coming back to life and killing people. I think they also mentioned that they eat people alive when they come back. That's just fake news though, right? We see Lincoln then says, the news says what it says. We all know you think the news is fake, and we've had this discussion a million times. You won't be seeing much of me for the next 2 weeks, so the conspiracies will have to be shared with someone that actually cares. Everything's gonna be fine. The world ain't going mad. We are. As we see Lincoln walk away. Rob says, that's the last time I saw your husband. He was a good man, despite all my questions I used to have for him. He listened. Haley says, yeah, he was always a good listener. So how did you and Dave get out? Rob says, well, that happened after. Till one night, I woke up in my cell, and my cell door was opening. Guards were turned into reanimated corpses. Another prisoner was eating one of the guards alive on the floor. It's horrific shit. And I saw my chance to get out. So I took it. But on my way, I found the keys to a van on one of the guards. I had to kill a few of those reanimated corpses on my way out, which wasn't difficult, seeing how I already hit someone in the head out of self-defense anyway, so I didn't care at that point. As we see him making his way out of the prison, we see him make it to the van as he tries to get it to start. As he looks relieved as he sees it works, Rob says, and I made a getaway. And somehow, I'm still here, Haley. But then he tries to pull out of the prison in the van. We see him speeding out as we then see Dave runs in front of the van. As Rob then slams the brakes and Dave says, Jesus Christ, watch where you're going, you crazy fuck. Rob says, I'm getting the hell out of here. This place is crowded with the dead. Want to come? I can get you wherever you want to get back to. Dave says, I got nothing left to get back to, man. But let's get somewhere that ain't here. He gets in and puts his hand out and he says, I don't think I ever properly talked to you. I'm Dave Miller. Rob says, Rob Johnson. They pull out of the prison and Dave says, oh, I know. I saw what happened to you on the TV. You need to know that if I didn't know who you were, I wouldn't have come with you. Fuck that shit. The last guy I talked to and opened up to back there was bailed out recently by someone. And guess what? He killed my family the second he got out. I don't even know why. Rob says, so is that who you're after? Dave says, yeah, something like that. Look, if he's alive, I'm gonna find him. Rob says, how? How are you gonna do this without the law catching up to you? Dave says, buddy, you see that shit back there? Order ain't a thing anymore. And as far as I can tell, we can do whatever the fuck we want. Rob says, well, no offense to you, buddy, but I think I'll pass. That sounds like a suicide mission waiting to happen. I think I'll go my own way, but I got a buddy of mine. He was left in charge of my house down here in DC. I'll stop back at home and get you some new clothes, food, and maybe even some weapons for your trip if you'd like. Dave says, you don't have to do that, man. Rob says, hey, I saw your face when you lost your family, and nobody was there for you. And trust me when I say, man, you better believe me. I know what it's like to have no one who gives a damn about you. Trust me, man. It sucks. Dave says, thanks. I appreciate it. You know, I knew the media was wrong about you. I just knew. Yeah, I'm sure you did, Rob says. They pull into Rob's mansion as we see it's been left behind, and Rob and Dave get out, and Rob says, damn, you just defend yourself and your crew acts like you never fucking existed. Fucking pathetic. They enter, and Dave says, beautiful place regardless. Rob says, thanks. They hear the sound of the city going mad from outside the house, and Dave says, you maybe by chance have something that's not a fucking jumpsuit? We cut to Dave putting on a black jacket and getting a new outfit, and Rob walks out with new clothes and says, how they fit? Dave says, good. Look, I really appreciate this, alright? I think you're the last kind soul I ever met since before everything fell apart for me. But karma's a bitch, cause seems like things are falling apart for everyone now. Maybe this is what they get. We see Rob and Dave packing a truck full of supplies, and Rob says, that about does it, my friend. So where are you off to? Dave says, my house. Gotta see what's left. Got some things from my family that goes back generations there. A pretty cool hat, might I add. Then, I'll find the people who wronged me and make things right. Rob shakes his hand and says, good luck to you. I hope you get some peace on this shit, bro. And hell, maybe we'll meet again someday. As we see the sun setting, Dave drives away as he goes on his own journey. And as we see Rob look sad, he's left alone in this world gone mad. Rob says, he drove off, and I never saw him again until a few years back, when we were being treated like fucking rabid dogs. Haley says, must have been crazy seeing him after all these years. Rob says, yeah, it was. I sure hope he's still alive. Haley looks very confident in the idea and says, I have a good feeling he is. As we see a mailbox that says Miller. As we see Dave opens the front door to his family's house. As he walks in and sees nothing. The house is empty. He looks sad. As he then sees the keychains with the names on it. Linda Miller, Kim Miller, and Dave Miller written on them. He stands there as he looks through the house one last time. He then goes upstairs up to his room, as he then starts packing some of his own clothes, as he then sees the hat Paul left for him when he was little, as he sees it, and then he takes it. He then goes into his daughter's abandoned room, as he says, "Oh baby girl, where did I go wrong?" As he looks determined, as he puts the hat on, as he then walks out of his house and leaves his family behind. We see Dave looking at himself in the mirror, as he then pulls out a razor and starts shaving his beard, per Enzo's request, as he looks at himself and says, "Fuck it." He walks over to his phone as he calls someone and says, "Hey, can we meet?" As we see, he puts his constable outfit on, as he puts his hat on in the current timeline, as he then walks out of his house and gets into his car, as he looks at himself in the visor. As we then are back during the outbreak, he looks at himself in the mirror as he's driving through the streets, as he parks, as he then hears something. He gets out of the truck, as he then sees from far, Washington, D.C. has fires everywhere. As we hear screams, explosions, and fires everywhere, as we see the outbreak is happening. Dave looks horrified by what he's seeing, as he gets back in his truck and drives away in a hurry. He tries leaving the city, but after a few minutes of driving, he stops the truck in front of a graveyard. He looks sad and angry, as he then says, "Goddamn Williams," referring to Chris. As he steps out, as several minutes go by, as he is looking at grave after grave after grave in this cemetery, until he eventually finds Linda and Kim's graves, as he breaks down a bit and says, "Linda, I tried. I shouldn't have robbed that store. You told me. You told me it wasn't a good idea. You fucking told me it would only be bad luck. But I didn't listen. I said to myself, and I said to you, a man has to protect his family. And I let our financial hell ruin all of this, ruin us. And I will never fucking forgive myself for that. And now, I'm gonna have to live in this fucking world all by myself. But only for a little while. Not knowing if I did the right thing. Not knowing if I should have done that, or if I should have just fucking sat there and gone broke and we would have lost our home. We would have fucking lost everything. We could have lost everything. But at least you would have still fucking been alive. And all I have is a tombstone of you and a serial killer that gets to run away free, knowing that he ruined my fucking life. And now I'm gonna have to fucking live with my fucking self. But only for a little while. Because I'll be joining you both soon enough. But first, you both have to be avenged. And I will not rest until that time. I promise. I love you both. But then, we see the shadow of a man walking up to him across the cemetery. As he says, Hey sir, have you seen what's been going on in the city?" We see the man is walking kind of strange. Dave then says, "Hey," as he then sees, it's a reanimated corpse. Dave then realizes what's going on and says, "These things better not be fucking human anymore. But if not, I'm not taking a fucking chance. Sorry, Linda. As he stabs it in the neck, as he sees it's still growling at him, Dave then realizes it can't be alive, as he says, "Alright, no one that's alive does that." As he then stabs it in the head, but then more and more of them come through the fog as Dave then looks in every direction as he sees he's surrounded by reanimated corpses. Dave says, "I'm sorry, Linda. This one's for you and Kim." As he pulls out a gun and starts shooting one after another, as we then see this is Dave's first ever deadhead kills. As he fires and kills several, but then as we then see some come up behind him, as they tackle him to the ground, as he's down, as we then see the deadheads are on top of him, as we then see out of nowhere all of the deadheads on top of him are killed. We see a few vehicles drive up to the cemetery, as we see a few men with guns get out, as he then says, "Thanks, who the hell are you guys?" One of them says, "Hey, you wanna live? Because I'm perfectly fine to keep driving." Dave says, "Well, I guess it's up to you, you knight in shining fuckheads. You saved my life." The man laughs as he says, "Get the man to the van. We have to go now, gentlemen." As they help Dave, as they all just barely get in the van, as they all drive away. Currently, back with Sydney. We see her shopping in a grocery store at Ziltrumite. We see her walking out into the parking lot, as we then see her loading her groceries into the back of her vehicle. As we then see her going home for the night, we then hear, "Sydney?" She turns around and says, "Glenn?" We see this man walks up to her, as we see it's her old colleague from the DEA, as she looks happy and says, "Oh my God, how are you?" Glenn says, "Oh, you know, surviving. I honestly presumed you dead, Sydney. Then again, I could say that for most people these days, but when I heard you were here, I just had to track you down." Sydney says, "This is unreal. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm talking to a ghost right now." Glenn says, "Well, you are. I like to pop in out of nowhere, you know that." "Oh man, it's good to see you again. You know, I'd love to say hi to Emma too if she's around." Sydney looks kind of sad and says, She didn't make it. I'm sorry." Glenn looks shocked and says, "Damn. I'm sorry to hear. I am. Your parents must be taking it rather hard." Sydney says, "Well, they died too." Glenn says, "Oh my God." He hugs her and he says, "Forgive me." Sydney says, No, it's okay. It happened a long time ago." Glenn says, "So you don't have any family left? Did you come here with anyone or just yourself?" Sydney looks like she wants to say more, but out of safety for our group, she says, No, it's just me." Glenn says, "Well, I still got family with me. We were all surviving in a bunker for several years, until we eventually ran out of supplies, and then we tried our luck out on the road. We saw the signs and thought we'd try our luck. We came here, and after a long, excruciating screening process, we finally made our way into the big city." Sydney says, "Wow, how old was your son Devin? He was really little back then." Glenn says, "Yeah, he just turned 14. We have a little girl now too, Jessica. We had her on the road. She'll be 9 next month." Sydney says, "Wow. Well, it's nice running into you. Good to know that I have some friends on the inside." She starts taking off as he says, "Hey, if you'd like, I'd love to invite you over to dinner tonight. It would just be me and the family. And of course, if you want to bring any friends of yourself." Sydney says, "You sure? I mean, it's been a long time. I wouldn't want to intrude." Glenn says, "Don't be silly. Us being friends this long, reconnecting, that considers us family in a place like this. Stop by the house tonight at 7. We'll have some dinner. Here is my address. We can catch up, like old times." Sydney says, "Okay, sure. I'd be happy to." Glenn says, "I gotta go for now." Sydney says, "Okay, nice to see you, Glenn. As we see, Sydney leaves as well, as they both go their separate ways. As she gets in her car, as she sits there for the first time in a while and cracks a smile. We see Tom working at his pizza place as he hears, "Tom, I've been waiting for my order for over 30 minutes. What's taking so damn long?" Tom says, "Calm your tits there, horse fucker. It's been a busy day, alright? Jesus." Rivers walks in and says, "Hey, honey bun, you got a minute?" Tom says, "Oh, of course, sweetie." Tom takes his apron off as the guy says, "Oh, but you got plenty of time to talk to her now, don't you?" Tom says, "Hey, hose before on the goes." Rivers says, "Wait, I'm a what?" Tom says, "Never mind. What's up?" Rivers says, "Sorry to interrupt your work, hon, but I haven't seen Rob or Haley since yesterday. Like, it's really unlike them, isn't it?" Tom says, "Well, they could be scoping out the area for a little bit longer than we expected. I'm sure they're fine. I'm sure they'll pop up at least, maybe later." Rivers says, "Well, maybe, but Arlo's really worried about them. And I'm gonna head out with them because there's nothing I can say that'll really convince them that they're fine, so I didn't really know what else to say, so I said I would come with them, and this and that." Tom stops her and says, "Alright, it's fine, just go with them. But, do you want some pizza on the go?" River says, "No, I'm good. Looks delicious, though, I can't lie." Tom says, "Alright, well, want me to come with you?" River says, "Oh, no, stay back here, it's fine. You're busy." Tom says, "Oh, okay. Just be careful, alright?" River says, "Okay. Love you, Tommy Boo." As they kiss, and the guy says, "Okay, Tom, if you don't serve me this pepperoni, bacon, sausage, and pepperoni pizza in the next 15 minutes, I'm gonna pull my fucking pants down, and I'm gonna pull my fucking sausage out and start pissing all over your business like I did last week." Tom says, holster your fucking pecker on lunch hour. There's fucking kids in here, you jack off." As we see Arlo waiting by the gates as Rivers is walking up to him. As he says, "Tom going too?" Rivers says, "He can't." Arlo says, "Why not?" They both get on their bikes as Rivers then says, "Pizza day," as they ride out of Halliburton to go find the others. Back with Dave. We see him walking through the park as he's looking at all the buildings, as he then sees Ashley sitting at the bench as he goes over and says, "Thanks for meeting me." Ashley says, "I assume Miles talked to you?" Dave says, "He did. He told me about Haley and the rebellion." Ashley says, "And?" Dave says, "I'm thinking of joining them somehow, but that's going to take time and resources. Now, I'm trying to reach out to as many of our people as we can get, at least the ones that are still around." Ashley says, "Yeah, I've seen it. Every time I'm on patrol, they talk about how scared they are or whatever, that there's this threat on the outside, and these people are scared of them. They are. They just don't like to show it." Dave says, "Maybe they are. But Enzo, he's still holding my daughter's life over my head. So I want to be careful about what we're doing here, because if we make one wrong move, or if Enzo even has a small idea of what we're doing, he'll kill her." Ashley says, "You know that's a risk either way, right?" Dave says, "I know. But I want you to get everybody together. Everybody listens to you. You're approachable, very approachable. That's a compliment to you, Ashley. No wonder you're Lincoln's sister." Ashley smiles and Dave says, "There's a party going on tonight, and I'm sure you've been hearing. They're celebrating the lives of the fallen soldiers today. But I'm asking you to make sure that you don't drink there. None of our people do. I want all of our heads clear-minded and looking at every single detail we can. After that, I want everybody to meet here." He shows her a place, and he says, "You know where that is?" Ashley says, "Yeah, I think so." Dave says, "All right. After my patrol, after the party's done, I want everybody that we know you can get to meet us there. Can you do it?" Ashley says, "Of course." Dave says, "All right." As he gets up and she says, "Hey, if you don't mind me asking, what changed after all this time?" He looks at her and he says, "The leadership of the West family. Without the West family, I'm a goddamn mess. Something about you people always keeps me alive, despite everything. And despite all the times I should have been dead, you people just have a way about you." He walks away as we see Ashley look slightly worried on what they're gonna have to do next. Flashback to before the outbreak. We see Dave in the back of the van as he says, "So where are we heading to?" The guy says, "You talk a lot, don't you?" Dave gives him a side eye as the guy says, "I haven't formally introduced myself. I'm Mark Daniels." Dave says, "Dave Miller." Mark says, "Miller? I like that. Has a real family name sound to it. Now, Miller, why was it that you were sitting in the cemetery all by yourself?" Dave says, "I lost people I cared about. That's all I care to share about it." Mark says, "Miller, we saved you out there. I mean, at the very least, I could get a thank you from you if you're not going to share any information of who you are." Dave says, "Thanks. So, do we have any idea what this whole thing is?" Mark says, "By the sounds of it, it's global. These dead people come back to life and bite you, and when they do, you eventually die. And when they come back, well, I think we all come back." Dave says, "But they're not people." Mark says, "Correct. At first I thought it was a terrorist attack, but no. It's just the dead reanimating. Some sick-ass shit." Dave says, "What the fuck has our world come to?" Mark says, "Well, that's what I've been saying. That's a very valid question, Mr. Miller. Well, to answer your previous question, we're heading out of the city, right after this next pit stop. We're going to Wyoming. I have a colleague that has a place up there. We're gonna hunker down there for a little bit. And if that's something you would be interested in, we'd love to have you join us in Wyoming. The more people, the better." Dave thinks about it and says, "Out of this shitstorm? Hell yeah, I'm in. Under one condition, though." Mark says, "What's that?" Dave says, "You say you have a pit stop to make before we go there. You got room for two?" Mark says, "Where to?" Dave says, "I'm looking for two men. Two men that wronged me. Their names are Chris Williams and Lincoln West. I'm trying to find them and kill them as soon as humanly possible." Mark says, "What makes you think I'm a killer?" Dave looks at the window to see human blood and says, "Well, the human blood on the window for one thing. Whoever it was someone you didn't want to save, wasn't it?" Mark smiles and says, "Okay, you got me there, Miller. You seem like a smart man. I'll help you find these guys. I'll help you kill them. Then, we go. Away from all of this." Dave says, "Deal." Mark says, "You're a good guy, Miller. I have a feeling you and I will be great friends." We see Rivers and Arlo driving on their motorcycles. As they see some deadheads on the road, they zigzag around them as they pass them by. We then see them driving up a hill. We then see Haley and Rob's abandoned bikes. They both look worried as they get off their bikes, as Rivers looks freaked out and says, "They were here. They were here." Arlo says, Okay, just calm down. I'm sure they just went off somewhere." Rivers says, "You see how this looks? Their bikes are stashed in the middle of a train track. They wouldn't just leave their bikes like that. They would leave them somewhere that wasn't here, like in bushes or some shit like that." Arlo says, "Yeah, I'm sure they're fine, alright? We just gotta circle around, do a sweep. I'm sure they're around here somewhere." Rivers says, "I just don't know if they..." We hear a gun click as we see a Ziltrumite soldier is standing behind them, holding them at gunpoint as they say, "Don't move." Rivers and Arlo turn around as she says, "Where did you take them?" The soldier pulls out his walkie and says, "Just saying, I found 2 more of the rebellion. I'm bringing them back now. Over. As we see the deadheads from down the road running towards them. The soldier tries shooting them, but as he then turns his back on them, Arlo then knocks him out. Arlo says, "Get your weapons out. They're coming." Rivers says, "Yes, so are they." Meaning the soldiers, as Rivers kicks a deadhead and then slashes 3 others, as Arlo then jumps as he kills 2 of them. As Rivers and Arlo kill this group of deadheads together, they then look out of breath as Arlo says, "All right, the soldiers probably heard him. They're probably coming." Rivers says, "I know, but we're taking them. It's time to find out how much their men really matter to them." As they take the soldier hostage. We see the sun starting to go down, as we see Sydney and Bruce walking up to this house, as he says, "So this guy worked with you?" Sydney says, "Yeah, it's a long story. He said to bring a guest, so you're it." They ring the doorbell, as Glenn comes to the door and says, "I've been expecting you, Sydney." "Who the hell's this guy?" Bruce says, "Name's Bruce. Good to meet you, Glenn." Glenn says, "Please, come in." Sydney walks in to see a very fancy house, as she says, "Wow, beautiful place." Glenn says, "Thanks. Yeah, we've had it for the first couple months we've been here." They walk into the kitchen as Sydney says, "Holly, oh my god, how are you?" As they hug, Holly, his wife, says, "Great. We're doing great. We were so surprised to hear you were here." "So you're on the news now?" Sydney says, "Yeah, kind of something they made me sign up for. They thought I was valuable and I had a good voice, so the commander chose me personally." Holly says, "Wow, the commander himself chose you? What an honor. He doesn't just hire anybody." So Holly says, "Dinner's gonna be ready in about 10 minutes, okay? Honey, can the kids come out now?" Glenn says, "Of course." He smiles and says, "My kids were in a bit of a timeout." Sydney says, "Oh yeah, kids can get pretty crazy sometimes." As Bruce says, "Hey, is there somewhere I can get washed up?" Glenn says, "Yep, just down the hall and second door to your left." Sydney says, "So Ziltrumite, huh? How's it been treating you guys?" We see the soldier wakes up, tied to a furnace in an old abandoned house. Arlo says, "They're waking up." Rivers comes in from the shadows and says, "He's gonna talk. It's the only way we find our people." Arlo says, "Are you sure about this?" Rivers says, "My daughter figure has been gone for years, and my boyfriend hasn't been the same since. I'm doing this for both of them." Arlo says, "All right." She walks up to the soldier and says, "I bet you're surprised to be alive. Under normal circumstances, we would have killed you. But lucky for you, we have some people of ours that we're looking for. Now, if you're willing to help us, if you tell us where they are, you will have my word, and I'll let you live." The soldier says, "Well, you're not getting shit out of your friends, bitch." River says, "That confirms it. You have them. Now tell me, whereabouts are you transporting them to?" He laughs a bit and says, "You are a tiny little woman. What makes you possibly think I'm going to cower to someone that literally looks like they just walked into the apocalypse for the very first time?" River says, "Okay, strike one." She turns the furnace on as Arlo just sits there and lets her do it. As she says, "Now I used to be an 8th grade science teacher back in the day, so I really don't like hearing inaccurate stories. So I'm going to ask you again, where are they taking them?" He spits in her face as she then grabs his hand and sticks it in the fire and burns his arm as she says, "Again, where is Arthur? Where did he take them?" The guy is starting to look scared as she then cuts 2 of his fingers off, as he looks to be in a lot of pain, as Arlo says, "Just answer the question, man. We're not going to stop until you do." The guy says, fuck, fine. I'll tell you where they are if you promise to stop. Arlo says, let him go. The soldier says, I don't make enough damn money to handle this anymore. You win. All right. I'm just a grunt. I don't have any pull. But what I know is that they are being held at a Ziltrumite workstation about 10 miles from here. But I'm just saying, good luck getting in, because you're not going to get anywhere near. River stabs him in the throat as the blood gushes out, as she kills him and says, okay, we got the location. As Arlo looks shocked by what she just did, as she says, hey, I got a plan. Listen up. We see Dave walking the streets as we hear, so where are we going? Flashback to during the outbreak. Mark says, well, since you already told me the menu you were going after, I guess I might as well be honest with you. I'm going after a man that's been wanted for a long time. And now the world's flipped upside down, it might be a bit easier to get to him. If the dead haven't already, I will. Dave says, who is this guy? Mark says, oh, look at you, all curious. And no, it's not Chris Williams. The world isn't that fucking small. All right, Miller? This is a man that I've known for many, many years. And I gave him everything in the world. And he just threw it all away. Dave says, what, are you gonna, Mark says, kill him? Yeah, eventually. Gotta torture him for a little bit first. Then I'll eventually kill him. You see, I like my dogs pouting. And on their knees, not eating their food and ignoring me, if you catch my drift. I like to feel the pain they're feeling before I kill them. If that doesn't transfer over, then what the fuck is the point of what I'm doing? You gotta feel that satisfaction. I would suggest doing that with that Chris Williams fella. That man ruined my career. Money hasn't been the same since I let him go. Dave starts putting two and two together and says, so he was a famous guy? Mark says, oh yeah, he was at his peak with me though. Dave says, what is his name? Mark says, his name is Rob Johnson. As Dave looks upset hearing that, as he knows this man is bad news. We see them pulling into the prison. As we see, the fences are down. Dead bodies are everywhere. And dead guards all around. They all get out of the vans, as Mark says. We searched through every floor, gentlemen. When you find Mr. Johnson, bring him out to me. Dave then stands there looking at the two guys, as the rest start walking inside. Once Dave sees they're far enough away, Dave takes out his knife and stabs one of them in the neck. As the blood gushes out, the other guy pulls out a gun and tries shooting him, but Dave uses the other guy's body as a shield. As he then pushes the other guy down, he then takes his gun off the ground and shoots the other guy in the head. Mark hears this as Dave grabs the keys off of the guy and gets in the van, but then Mark and the rest then fire towards Dave. Dave also fires a few shots as he gets in the van, as he starts it up, as they then shoot the van, as they shoot one of the tires, as Dave puts his foot on the gas and drives towards Mark and his men. Mark and a few of the other ones get back as Dave runs a bunch of them over. They shoot the tires, as Mark says, Dave, you're outnumbered here. As we see, Dave is out of bullets. As we then see the deadheads from inside the prison start coming towards Mark and the rest of the remaining men. As they fire towards the dead, they're distracted. As Dave then sees his chance and runs off into the woods, as he then hears nothing but screams coming from some of the men. As he leaves them all for dead and Dave runs away. Later on, we see him running through the woods as he hears nothing but the sound of the dead. As he stands there and says, "The only beautiful thing in this world is the beautiful sound of death, I guess." As we see Dave starts walking away, as he makes it back to the truck, as he gets in and looks at himself in the rearview mirror and says, "I'll never love again. I'll never lead again. I'm sorry, Linda. That's just not who I am anymore." As he drives away to go on his own journey, as we see Dave's first night in the apocalypse. He then drives through the city of Washington, seeing the destruction all around. He then stops his truck as he hears fighting from inside a building. He gets out of the truck and pulls out his gun. He walks up to the door as he then sees a man standing there on his knees holding two swords as Dave stands there and smiles as he stands there looking very intrigued. We see Tom's bar is opening as we see Billy walks in and says, "Hey, Uncle Tom." Tom looks surprised to see him there and says, "Hey, what are you doing here, kiddo?" "Well, I guess that age limit thing is pointless. Can you take that down? Now, your Aunt Rivers is out there looking for your mom right now, alright? So, don't be concerned about." Billy says, "No, I know. I'm sure she'll be fine." Tom notices that he's not really all that worried about it and then says, "Well, hey, my neighbor just gave me this thing of darts. Have you ever played darts?" Billy says, "I can't say I have." Tom says, "Damn, you shot a gun and yet you've never played darts? Here, I'll show you. It can't be that difficult." As we see some time going by, as we see them both playing darts together, as we see Tom bonding with Billy. We see Arlo fully clothed in a Ziltrumite armor that they took from the soldier. Arlo then says, "You think this'll work?" Rivers says, "It has to. It's the only way we're getting them out." Arlo says, "It's a risk either way." Rivers says, "Yeah. Are you good with risks?" Arlo says, "Risks is half my life, Rivers. Back when I was an air marshal, me and my brother were part of the same team. We were supposed to go on the same job together. Same flight and everything. My boss insisted to hold me back and let my brother do the job alone. He held me back to talk about my performance issues and my capabilities. And my capabilities weren't as strong as they once were, or some BS that your bosses usually tell you. And after he let me go, my brother was already gone. And when they came back, my brother died in a crash. He died, Rivers. And I was supposed to go with him. And I kept thinking, is it my boss's fault? Was it my fault? I don't know. But it took an extra 5 minutes for things to be different. So I'm not waiting 5 more minutes, Rivers. Even if that's all we have left, I am living my life to its fullest every day for my brother and for the people that I don't get to live with anymore." Rivers looks shocked and says, "Okay, I'm glad to hear. And for the record, I think your brother would want us to do the same thing by the sounds of it." Arlo says, "I hope so. But I'm ready. So let's do this." We see them eating dinner with Glenn and his family. As we hear Sydney says, "I was not. I remember I pulled in and there he was, naked as a damn chamber, I'm telling you." Glenn says, "Yeah, but you were the one that drove in first and you didn't report it." Sydney says, "Oh, no. I had him in the station before. I wasn't going to do that all over again, and then he just got released and then he went back into the streets again and then he did it all over again." You didn't want to do it either, Glenn says. Alright, I'll admit, you got me there, I'm not gonna lie. The guy was a damn tool to deal with. They laugh, but then we see his 14-year-old son walks out. As Sydney sees he has a black eye, as he sits down and Glenn says, "Hey now, are you ready to listen, young man?" The kid says, "Yes, Dad. I'm ready." Glenn says, "Good. Now, who wants dessert?" Holly says, "Well, I still gotta make that." Glenn looks angry and says, "Honey, we have guests. Please don't make me say it again." Sydney looks awkward as she sees there's some bruising on his little girl's arm, too. Bruce also picks up on this as Glenn says, "Honey, can I see you in the kitchen for a moment?" Sydney says, "Excuse me." We see Sydney sneaking around, listening to them argue in the other room, as she hears him say, "You're always such a lazy bitch. You don't fucking do anything around here. And that boy, I taught him a fucking lesson. And I would beat him again. I will teach him again if he does even one fucking thing wrong. I will hit him again. You understand me? He treats me with respect. And you just stay the fuck out of it." As he hits his wife, but then Sydney then runs and tackles him down to the ground and starts punching Glenn over and over and over again as she yells, "Get the fuck off of her! Get the fuck off of her!" As we see the kids are crying in the background as Bruce then takes Sydney off of him before she kills him. As we see Glenn on the ground choking on blood as she says, "You don't fucking put your hands on your wife ever again. Do you understand me?" Bruce says, "Sydney, stop!" Holly and the kids look scared of them both as Sydney has a bloody fist as Holly says, "Please, just leave." As Glenn is trying to get up, as Bruce then says, "I'm sorry about this. We're going, okay? We're going." As they leave, as we see Sydney had some built-up anger she needed to release. We see her and Bruce walking out of the house into the streets at night as he says, "You didn't really think I was gonna let you go through with that, did you?" Sydney says, "He was beating on his wife and his kids. I don't know who the fuck that was in there, but something changed in him. He was never like that before." Bruce says, "Are you sure? Maybe you just didn't see it back then." Sydney says, "I know what I saw back then, damn it. He used to be a friend. Hell, my parents loved him. They called him the son they never had. And now I almost fucking killed him. I don't know what's wrong with me. But this place, it destroys everything it has. Whether it's us or whether it's them. This place is a goddamn anarchy." As she walks down the road, as she looks rather upset. We see a guard standing at the big doors of the station, as we see a soldier walking up to them, as we see them holding Rivers hostage, as the guard says, "What is this, Jeffrey?" The soldier says, "Found her on the outside. She was trying to find her friends." The guard gives him the key and says, "Here, lock her up with the rest. Then go tell Jacin you found another. Soon enough we'll find all of them." The soldier says, "Got it, sir." They salute each other as they push Rivers down the hall, as he then says, "Walk." As they get far enough down the hall, as she says, "Geez, the push was a little much." As we reveal Arlo in the armor, as he says, "Sorry." They move through the station as we see some long hallways are going down multiple different directions, as we see some guards walking down one of the halls, as they both back up against the wall and hide from the guards, as they wait for them to pass by. Rivers whispers, "They gotta be in here somewhere. This place can't be that big." We see them keep moving. We see Haley and Rob sitting in the cell as Haley finally gets the rope off of her, as she then runs to the other side of the room and says, "Hey, give me a hand with this." They both kick the pipe in as Haley takes this metal pipe, as they then hear the soldiers walking up to the cell as they both get ready. But then they open up a little hatch and throw a smoke bomb in the room as they both get down, as Rob and Haley are both coughing, as the soldiers grab them by force and throw bags on their heads, as they bring them out and as they walk them down the hall. Out of nowhere, the guards all get shot down as we see Rivers and Arlo come in, as Haley then smiles and says, "Holy shit! How the hell did you guys get in here?" Rivers says, "Well, when you have stupid people, it's a hell of a lot easier to be smart." Arlo says, "I'm damn near tickled we found you both, but we gotta go. That gunfire's gonna draw." The alarm goes off as Arlo says, "They know we're here." We see Dave walking the roads as he sees Mr. Sunderland's bar across the street. But now, he keeps walking as he is now fully focused and ready to go. As we see a massive gathering of people in the center of the Ziltrumite city, as we see a fancy building, as we see a party is starting. But there's nothing in it, and you'll ask yourself, where is my mind? As we see, Sydney is sitting in her apartment, just drinking her sorrows away. As we then see several empty bottles next to her, as we see her crying, as her cry turns into a laugh. As we can see, Ziltrumite has driven her crazy. We see a bunch of vehicles driving to this party, as we see Enzo and Julia arriving, as he says, "La family, huh? This will be more of a good day for us. No more fucking anarchy." Back in Station 19, we see Jacinthe has his armor on as he says, "Radio Arthur, tell him we're under attack." One of his guys says, "No can do, sir. Arthur's got a mission on his own now." Jacinthe looks frustrated and says, "It's okay. We fight ourselves." We see Arlo shooting at some of the soldiers as he's covering our group, as they all then take guns from the dead soldiers, as Haley then finds her pickaxe on one of the soldiers, as she then loads up, as Rob says, "We gotta find a way out." As Arlo says, "Get behind me," as he sees several other running towards them, as he pulls out a grenade, as Haley and the group then get back, as Arlo then throws it towards the soldiers and blows up 10 of them, as we see the walls are covered in blood. Jacinthe gets back as they run for the door, as more soldiers fire back, as Haley stealth kills one with her pickaxe, as Rob gets another one in the back, as the soldier then says, Please, Mr. Johnson, you don't want it." He shoots them, as they then just see 2 guys are left, as we see one of them is Jacinthe, as Rivers shoots the other guy, as Rob then grabs Jacinthe by his jacket and tackles him, and he starts punching him over and over and over again as he keeps going, and Arlo says, Rob! Arlo stops him and he says, "Hey, that's enough," Rob yells to Jacinthe. "Where's Arthur? Where is he?" Jacinthe laughs as he says, "You think I would tell you? It's all part of the plan, Rob." Rob says, "What fucking plan? What are you people planning with us?" Jacinthe says, "Well, Potato, you can take my word for it, but I was hoping as many of you as possible would come out here." Haley says, "What the hell does that mean?" Jacinthe says, "It means you may want to get home quickly, if you even still have a home to get back to." Everyone looks worried as Rob is about to kill him, as Haley then stops Rob and says, "Leave him. He's no threat to us." She looks at him and she says, "I'm keeping you alive for one simple reason. I want you to tell your commander that I look forward to meeting them. And you tell him that family he stole is mine and will be brought back to its rightful owners. You tell him that." As she knocks him out, as River says, "We gotta get home right now." As they all run out of the station, as we see Jacinthe is knocked out and pissed himself. As they run into the woods in a hurry to get back home. As we see Tom and Billy walking the streets of Halliburton, as Tom hears the sound of helicopters flying overhead. We see multiple Ziltrumite helicopters flying over Halliburton, as we see Haley and the others running through the woods in a hurry as they look panicked. As we see the helicopters over the community of Halliburton, as we see Arthur and Kezia in one of the helicopters, as Kezia looks horrified, as Arthur says, "The time is now, Taylor. Fire!" Kezia looks terrified as she knows there's innocent people inside. Arthur says again, "Kezia, you fire." Taylor, fire. But she just won't do it. As Arthur says, "Do it." Kezia says, I can't." Arthur says, "You can." "Okay, put it this way. You will fire, or I will order Enzo to kill the boy yours, and his death and his blood will be on your hands." Well, that'd be a mighty tragedy now, wouldn't it? Kezia looks terrified and screams out, Okay. Arthur says, "Fire. Now. Fire!" Kezia takes a deep breath and proceeds to fire down at the community of Halliburton as they make their attack.